So welcome back to the channel, Howtodoneright. Today I have a special video because it was requested from my European friends how to make medieval mead or simple mead or honey wine. All it calls for is honey. We're going to show you two different types to make today. It is a little bit of a lengthy process, but the rewards at the end will be amazing, I promise. And yes, I got my Viking horn ready to make this mead. Stay tuned, make sure you click the like and subscribe button, and let's get right into making simple mead with only a few ingredients. So when making mead and drinking mead, you gotta have one of these. You gotta have an ox horn. That's a given. I tried to find my Viking cap, couldn't find it, so you gotta deal with this face today. So what is mead? It is literally the oldest wine. The Vikings were making this back thousands of years ago. And if they can do it, we surely can do it today. I'm no mead expert, but I've turned to the mead experts, and they gave me some great tips to make this video. One of them actually offered to make a cameo, so I might go to his place. Let me know if you want to see that. He sells nothing but meads and has a bar. It would be a great thing. Axe throwing, everything. He's helped with a lot of these tips. I've got some other knowledgeable sources. This is a simple recipe. It is the only recipe you'll need for mead. Let's go over the ingredients for this simple mead. Again, it's 3 ingredients. You need some honey, some campden tablets, and some yeast nutrient. That's all we need to make this simple mead recipe. And don't forget your yeast. I like champagne yeast. So mead is made with honey. Honey, or a lot of people will call this honey wine. And basically it's the same process of making wine, except you don't want to rush it. The fermentation you want to do a little bit in a cooler area. We'll get into this a little further as we get into the video, but let's get started with our mead. So let's go over some of the equipment you're going to need. I'm making a 1-gallon batch, so I got a 2-gallon bucket here. We're going to need some measuring spoons to measure some ingredients. You'll definitely need an airlock to watch fermentation, and you will also want a stir paddle. This will help us stir ingredients together. And you definitely want to make sure you have one of these, a hydrometer. You want to be able to check your ABV, alcohol by volume. So now mead does take a little bit of a lengthy time process. It takes a little, actually longer to make than wine does. But don't rush mead. The older the mead gets, the better. And you don't want to drink your mead for at least 6 months, preferably a year. It's going to get smoother as it goes, and the rewards will be amazing, I promise. We'll definitely need Star San sanitizer. This is what I like to use to sanitize my equipment. I have a whole video out there how to use this product, so make sure you're watching that, and I'll put a link in the description. All right, let's get our equipment sanitized. I always make a 2.5-gallon batch, so we're going to use a 1/2 ounce of the Star San sanitizer for that 1/2-gallon batch. So we'll just squeeze up a 1/2 ounce in this container. We'll get that mixed with water, and we'll get everything sanitized. So we got all the equipment sanitized. You can see I also like to use a squirt bottle. It comes in handy when you're stirring things in, just to spray down maybe your stir stick. But I love the spray bottle. Make sure you use one. So what is the main difference between mead and wine? They are very similar. Yes, that is correct. But mead is made with honey. Wine is made with other sweeteners such as sugar or the fruit. But the main difference is honey. And we all know that the flavor of wine and meads is going to get much better with age. So yes, they do have that quality as well. We've got everything sanitized. We're going to start adding our ingredients. You can see here, I've got the raw and unfiltered honey. That's what you want to use. You want raw and unfiltered. A lot of the videos you may see on the internet will say you need to cook your honey, get all the stuff killed in there. That's an unnecessary thing. You are killing some of the flavor when you do that. So we're going to add this honey, and then we'll get some more ingredients going Also, I'm using 2.5 pounds of honey. You want to make sure for a 1 gallon batch that you are using 2.5 to 3 pounds of honey. Let's get every last drop. So the next thing we want to do is we want to add 1 Campden tablets, and 2 sanitized spoons works perfect for crushing this up. So we will add that. So the next thing we want to add is our yeast nutrient. We want 1 teaspoon since we're making a gallon batch. So my half teaspoon is what goes in here. I'm going to use 2 half teaspoons. And then to this, all we want to do is add 1 gallon of water. Now remember, when you're making mead, or some people call this honey wine, there's different kinds of honey you can use. Honey that bees are just pollinating with clovers. There's wildflowers. So each bee batch is gonna taste different. I've got the water in here. We're gonna give it a stir with our sterilized spoon and get it all mixed in. And then we're gonna take a hydrometer reading. And let's get this mixed in. This will take a few minutes to mix in because the honey, the thicker consistency. So just take your time with this part. So now usually what I do is I like to float my hydrometer in my bucket, but my buckets, there's not enough liquid in here. So I'm going to add it to this tube and we'll float it inside of here. Hopefully I don't make a huge mess. So we're just adding our mead into here to get a reading. So we're going to drop our sanitized hydrometer into our liquid here, and we'll take a reading to see what our potential alcohol is. So I want to try and get it somewhere between 10 and 15. You can see we're at 20. So I'm going to be adding more water to this mead to bring it down some. I may have added another half gallon to 3/4 of a gallon, and you can see it is right where I want it to be. I'll take a close-up picture of this. It's somewhere between 12 and 13. That's where I want to be. This is where it gets to be fun. If you want 20%, you could have just started from where I had in the beginning. If you want lower, just keep adding water until you get the alcohol level you want to be. You can see how much the liquid came up here. So it's not totally full up to the bucket, but I'm happy with the percent we're at. You can see this medieval wine that the Vikings would have made is such an easy recipe. 3 ingredients. Right now, we're going to get the sanitized lid on, we'll get the airlock in, and then we're going to wait 24 hours before we add the yeast. Sanitized airlock. We want to sit this down in here, and hopefully you can see the level of the water. We want it right about in the middle for this double airlock system. So that's exactly what we want to do. We want to keep this in a fairly cool place until we add the yeast. So we'll get to that in the next step. So it's been exactly 24 hours and we are going to add our yeast. I'm going to do this a little bit different than most people will tell you, as if you've watched any of my other wine videos. We are just going to sprinkle this in top and let it sit. And I'm going to use about a half a packet because I got something special planned for the rest of this yeast. So stay tuned for that. And I'm not even going to stir this in. Now, I will tell you, if you heard me in the beginning of the video, that I got some consultations from some professional mead makers. And one of the tips that they gave was make sure when you're fermenting this, it's in a very cool place. So this is going to go into my basement. If you watch my wine videos, you know I do that at room temperature. But this is a little bit different, and we're going to listen to the professionals. Basement to ferment. This will probably take 7 to 14 days. So it's been 24 hours since we added the yeast. You can see here we're getting some foaming. So that means the yeast is working. We are going to stir this in now, and we are going to stir this each and every day until we notice that foaming is going down. We'll take some readings, and that's how we'll determine whether primary fermentation is done. But I expect this to take somewhere between 7 and 14 days. But that's what you're looking for, the foam. That's the yeast working, and if you could smell it, you can even smell the yeast. So I'm going to give this a stir, and then we're going to put the lid back on and get it back down in the basement. But we're close to seeing some bubbling here real soon. So it has been 9 days here, and I want to just take a reading. I've got everything sanitized with my sanitizer. We're going to open this up, and we're going to take a reading. I'm not seeing as much bubbling in there, which leads me to believe it may be close to being ready for the primary fermentation to be done and to get this in our secondary. But let's take a reading and see where it's at. So you can see it doesn't look like it's quite done. There's a little bit, it's not down to that 1.0 marker, which is where I like to get it. So I'm going to let it go another couple days. I'm going to stir it, and when I was stirring it, it has a little bit of foaming, so I know it's not quite done. I think we might have a couple more days. We'll check it in 3 to 4 days. So we've had this in the primary sanitation bucket for about 2 weeks now, and we're going to check it. How do you know when your primary fermentation done? It's not just because when the bubbles go away. The only way to tell is by testing it. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to get a hydrometer in here and see what the reading is. So I have everything sanitized. I put some of my wine in this cylinder here, and now we're just going to float my sanitized hydrometer in there, and we're going to see where it comes to. We're kind of really hoping that it gets to the 1.0. That's when you know it's done fermenting. So I don't know if you can see this. I'll do a close-up, but you can see it is very close to the 1.0. And I'm satisfied enough to get this into the secondary vessel. In this batch, I'm going to have some regular mead and some blueberry mead. So I'm going to weigh out about 1.5 to 2 cups of blueberries. I'm going to make a blueberry mead with the regular. So there's a pound, 1.64 pounds. So that'll flavor our mead to a blueberry, which is what I want. So now we got our mead here, and we're ready to get this rack down to our secondary. I got a 1 gallon jug down here. If you remember, we made a 1 gallon batch, but I think we probably got about 1.5 gallons of liquid in there. So when I put it in my other carboy with those blueberries, I'm hoping that'll top it off. So I'll have 2 gallon batches out of this 1 gallon. You'll see what I mean here, but let's get to racking. So you can see I got this sanitized here. We're just going to give this a couple pumps, and we're going to top off our 1 gallon jug down here that's already sanitized. Just look at that color. Like I said, it's going to be like a honey color, and it is looking amazing. Don't worry about the extra sanitizer in your bottles. It is safe to drink in the sanitized form. So you can see I got a 1 gallon jug filled up here. I was able to get the airlock on. Now I'm going to put my blueberries into this one without trying to make a mess. So we'll just put them in by hand. And like I said, it seems like I have about 1 gallon or 1/2 gallon left. So I think these blueberries, it's just going to come out perfect for this batch of wine. Remember, my hands are sanitized. You wouldn't want to do this. And my blueberries are frozen. You always want to use frozen fruit when you can, because it just helps it break it down in the process a little bit better. Could probably use a funnel here, but I don't know if I have one that's the blueberries will fit through. So we're going to get our siphon going again. I've got probably, like I said, 1/2 gallon in this bucket left. And you can see this is going to be a beautiful color mead. I can't wait to try this, but it's going to be a little wow till you get to see the end of this video. I hate to say it, but don't rush the process. Mead is fun. When you taste this, right now it kind of tastes like jet fuel. I can only describe it as a wine that almost like has a little bit of carbonation in. That will go away the more this ages. And it's just going to be amazing. I can't wait for you to see the end product. I hope you get to see it. I'll keep you updated as the process goes as we do more videos. But this is how you do mead. It's very simple. Once this is done, we'll get it capped off and we'll let it sit for 2 months. we'll probably rack both of these because I'm going to want to get some of that blueberry stuff out of there. And then we will probably let it sit for another 30 days, maybe add some bentonite to clear it up a little bit. And then we'll bottle it. Just check out the color of these meads. Again, we've got a simple mead just with honey, and then we added blueberries to the other gallon jug. And I topped them off with the airlocks. These will go down in the basement, like I said, for a few months. So there you have it. Very simple to make mead. It does take a little time, so just, take your time with it. It's a great hobby to learn. And then also make sure through the process, you're testing it. Here it is. You can see it's a little cloudy, and that's kind of to be expected, but it kind of does smell like honey, but the more this ages, the more honey flavor and the more taste you're going to get out of it. It's pretty good already, man. If I would back sweeten this, it would be really good. But again, take your time in the hobby. I hope you enjoyed this video. Shout out to anybody that's helped me make this recipe and create this for you. Like I said, if you want to see the professionals, maybe I'll go up there and do a video of a guy that promised to do a cameo. So check it out. I hope you like it. If you make it, let me know how it turns out. That's what this channel is all about. Sharing information, learning from you, learning from me. And I hope you enjoy the hobby. I can't wait to taste this. Stay tuned for that video. But again, it may take a little while.